In this lesson here, we're going to be taking a look at how do we take some line, which is on a graph, and represent it as a function. Okay, how do we take some line and represent it as a function? So we're going to start off with just a couple of definitions that we're going to look through and important things that we need to know about our graph, and we're going to look at how do we graph things out and what are things labeled as. The first thing that we're going to take a look at is our y-axis. Okay, and so this is our vertical axis. And so I'm going to put an A right there. This is our y-axis. This is where x equals 0. Okay, so this is where x equals 0. Yes, it's x. X equals 0. Now we call it our y-axis. It kind of splits our entire graph in half with negative x's on one side and positive x's on one other side, and the y-axis splits that in half. The other thing that we have, and it's related, is our x-axis, and this is the horizontal axis. So this is B, and I'm going to label them. You notice there's letters here, and I'm going to label them like that as well. So B here, this is where y equals 0, positive y's are on top, negative y's are on the bottom. This is our x-axis. We sometimes label it as x and y because these are our x values here. So this would be x equals 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. And then negatives on that side. The y is the same thing, where it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we call it the x and y axis because that's where we're going to put our labels onto. Now the next thing that we're going to put on here is our linear function. And that's an L, and it's kind of, there we go. A linear function is any line on the graph which can be described by a function. Now, when we talk about a line on a graph, we're going to draw it out as a straight line. And the ones that we're dealing with here are always going to be straight lines. And I'm going to draw a very specific one here. I'm going to make sure that it is exactly the way I want it. Okay, I'm going to draw it out in pink. That's because I'm using pink for that one there. And I'm going to call that C. So that's our linear function. There is a line on the graph. Okay, very particular. We have that line. And so we want to come up with a way of describing that line. Okay, so we want to come up with a way of describing that line. Now, on the line, okay, and in different places, there are points which are on the line, which satisfy the function. And each point is denoted, and denoted just means kind of represented, by the coordinates. And we're always going to use x and y. And I'm going to quickly label my numbers here, 2, 4, 6. Again, I need to really get some graphs which already have this, so I don't always have to put that on there. 6 and 2, 4, 6. Okay, so these are x values, these are y values. Now, if we take a look at this point right, I'm going to take a look at this point right there, that one there. That is where x is 6 and y is 6. That just so happens to be the same thing. This point right here is where x is 3 and y is 4. Okay, so that would be how we denote our points. I'm going to put a D right there because those are our points that we have on the graph. Okay, those are points that we have on the graph. Now, there are an infinite number of points that are along the graph. We can take any point here. There could be some decimals. There could be some really nice points. Okay, there is an infinite number of points, and they keep going this way and they keep going that way because our line is continuous and it continues to go. So those are points that are on line. Now, there are, again, like I said, infinite number of points, but we have some very specific points that we want to take a look at. One of them is the point where the function crosses the y-axis. That is this point right there where it crosses the y-axis, and we call that the y-intercept. Okay, and it has coordinates 0, x is 0, and y in this case is 2. Okay, so whatever the y value is, that's what we're going to have. That's 2. Okay, so the point is 0, 2, and that is our y-intercept. And now the other one in relation is where the function crosses the x-axis, and this is called our x-intercept. We're not going to be quite as worried about this one. We're going to be more worried about our y-intercept, but our x-intercept is this point right there. So this is f, and that is the point 0, -3. sorry, that is in the wrong order. If I can find my correction tape there. It is -3, x always first, 0. There we go, -3, 0. So it's at where x is -3 and y is 0, and so that is that point right there. Now, these are all values, okay, that are all different things that are on a line or on a function and a part of a graph. Very important that we recognize what these points are, okay, and we understand, okay, there are very nice points, there are a bunch of not so nice points, like this one right here, okay, that would be where x is 4.5-ish and y is 5, okay. There's a decimal. We don't necessarily always like decimals, but sometimes we can use those points as well, okay. Remember the intercepts, okay, remember that our function or our line always has arrows at the end, okay, and then we can label it based on our x and y intercept, or x and y axis.